Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Word Wednesday. A little different today. Dave Huber is not able to be with us today, so my name is Jeffrey Nance. I will be leading our discussion today, and we're going to be talking about purpose. Uh, so, you know, there's a lot of different thoughts on why am I here? It's in fact it's a pivotal question that really all of us should answer, and it's one that I've been pondering to some degree, not to necessarily from that like broader perspective of why am I here, but like what am I doing with this? And so I thought I would share a story with you guys, and then I'm gonna read a passage from you, and then we're gonna talk about a couple other things that I think God really desires for us in this life and how we can look at our life and what that means. So let me start out with a reading here from Second Corinthians chapter 5. It may seem like a kind of a strange way to start this out, but I do think it's telling, and I think it will lay a foundation for where we're going to go with the rest of our time together today. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. Meanwhile, we groan, longing to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, because when we are clothed, we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, this body, we groan and are burdened, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now, the one who has fashioned us for this very purpose is God, who has given us the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Now, that's probably not where you would have thought we were going with today, right? What's my purpose in life? To die. My purpose in life is to die so that I can go be in heaven, so that I can be with Jesus, so that I can be in glory, so that I can have this eternal home. And yet it seems to state quite clearly here that in this earthly tent, we do groan and we do long for what is to come. And heaven is an incredible place when you think about what we have here on earth and some of the places that we're able to visit, some of the things that we're able to see. It's really incredible. And then of course, heaven is going to blow anything that we have here on earth away. It's just an absolutely amazing place. I mean, they have streets that are filled with gold. Like, so the stuff that we treasure, that we kind of say, oh, this is a sign of wealth, they just use it like we use concrete here. That's the stuff we walk around on. And then they have walls that are thick, I think 120 feet thick, and they're just filled with precious jewels. So just all these jewels that you can imagine, if you could put it in a ring, it's up there and it's just in a wall. So it's our outer wall, right? And so we're walking on gold. We're looking at a wall full of jewelry, and you can just imagine how sparkling that would be. And then of course there's the presence of Christ, who is the light, the center, and just the radiance that comes from that. So on the one hand, here in Second Corinthians, it says that we long for that, and then in so doing, that is actually life. So a lot of us, we look at death and we go, oh, well, that's kind of the end, right? Whereas here, from Paul's perspective, he says, no, that life, that future life, that eternal life, that's real life. That's life. That's what we long for. And yet we kind of think, well, wait a second, it can't just be all about, what happens when we're done here. Because the Bible does say that for all of us, our life is like a mist. It's like a vapor. It's here and then it's gone. And it tells us to make the most of every opportunity, for the days are evil. Now, when it says the days are evil, that doesn't mean that we're waking up going, oh, great, today is out to get me. I know it may feel like that sometimes, but the reality is, the sense here is that when it says the days are evil, it's just it's a reference really to just how short they are, how fleeting they are. And you talk to anybody that's lived for a number of years, and they look back and say, wow, time really flew. It's interesting from a perspective of a child to think about what's old. You know, you ask a kid, well, what's old? They might say, oh, somebody that's 20 or 30. You talk to somebody in their 30s, they're like, I'm not old. 20, they certainly don't think they're old. And then you go 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80. And at some point, I guess you go, well, maybe I am. Maybe I am getting old. I don't know what point that is. But we have to ask ourselves, what am I doing with this life? So if this life is fleeting, if this life is temporary, and yet God has created me for this dwelling, for this inward tent, for this tent, this body that I have. God has created this body for me. How then do I approach that in a purposeful or meaningful way? And so I'm going to take you guys back. I took my oldest son off to college. He had orientation. It was about 3 weeks ago now. And while we were there, my car window got broken into. Somebody broke into my car. I thought I had an alarm on my car. Turns out I don't, which that was a surprise to me. I click it and it locks, but apparently there's no alarm there. So I was like, well, that's not cool. So that was a shock to me. Um, but they were just breaking in. And that night there were 21 cars, 21 vehicles that got broken into that night. So there was a group of people, or I don't know, a couple of people, and they're just out there. And their purpose that night was just to break into cars looking for stuff. And they didn't even take valuable stuff from most people. They were looking for specific things, I guess, cash and guns. That's what so after talking to the police, that's what they had taken. And just kind of watching this whole thing, I just remember being like, just mad. I was like, why? Who does that? Like, you only have one life. Why do you want to spend your life that way? How many more productive things could you be doing with your life than breaking in and stealing? The Bible even talks about that those that are used to stealing should steal no longer, and they should find something productive to do with their hands. And I started thinking about this. I'm going, wow, those people are like us, though, really. We wake up and we have really two choices each day. Am I going to make people's lives around me better or worse today? So when I think about purpose, that's something that's really hit me hard recently. Is I think all of us have a tendency to be very selfish people. In fact, I think that you can basically trace every sin you've ever committed back to just pure selfishness, where you just said, I don't care what anybody else wants. I'm just focused on me and I'm not getting what I want. So I'm going to go get what I want. And I think really when we get down to it, the pretty much every sin has its root in selfishness. And as you think about what does selfishness do for me, it's all about me. And you have to ask yourself, when it comes to purpose, is this life that we're living all about you? Or is there something greater to it? Is there something that we should be doing with our life that really enhances the lives of other people around us? And if so, what does that look like? And so I've really taken it as a challenge to say, you know what, Geoffrey, start thinking more about other people. Start being aware of things that they like. Start being aware of things that you could do that would really be beneficial to them, that would help them, that would be nice to them, where they would look at that and go, wow, that was very helpful. That was very nice. And I feel like if we really take that challenge seriously, that it begins to walk us down a path where we go, all right, I may know, at this stage of my life, pretty much what God is wanting me to do in this kind of bigger picture thing. Like I know, like what my job is. I know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm serving at my church. I'm doing this with my family, that kind of stuff. But to look at it in a smaller frame, to say, what am I doing from day to day? Because I remember back when I was in high school, I thought that I would go off to college and I would play football, and that's what I would do. And I remember feeling like there was a time when I had a record for our state about halfway through the season. And then it held for 6 days. I got beat by two guys the following week. Turns out those two guys spent decades each in the NFL. So I thought, yeah, you know what? Well, that's okay. I didn't know at the time I was going to get beat by those guys, but they both ended up with D1 scholarships. One went to UT, one to Nebraska. And my path was different. I remember going off to college and just sitting there, and for the first time, I wasn't doing what I was used to doing. I remember it was a really tough time because I was really searching for purpose. I knew that God had called me as an eighth grader into ministry, so I knew that that was what I was going to be doing. I was going into youth ministry, but not having sports be an active part of my life was really challenging for me. I remember spending a lot of time really praying about that and trying to figure out, what, God, why is this your will for my life? I have a gift here that you gave me, and I'm not able to use that. I don't understand that. And I met some people that were on the team. I started to realize their schedule. I had gotten involved with serving in some youth groups, and I was like, wow, I wouldn't have had time to do this. So I was out there as a college student working in youth ministry, impacting people's lives. And it was about 2 years later when I finally realized, you know what, the reason I wasn't able to do that is because I couldn't have done this. And so at the time I was sitting there looking for purpose, and what I didn't realize is God had a purpose, and He was using me. It just wasn't necessarily in a way that I was thinking about at that time. But God is faithful. And we know in Jeremiah 29:11 it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And of course, that's directed specifically to the Israelites, but I think there's a dual purpose for each of us as believers because it comes from the heart of a father who really does care about us and wants what's best for us. But it doesn't mean that we'll necessarily understand that. It says that your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And we think about what a lamp is. A lamp does not, it's not a football stadium light. I mean, it's not lighting up where we can see what's miles ahead of us. A lamp shows you what's a few feet in front of you. And then you walk that path and you kind of see, all right, here's the path I'm supposed to be on. Here's things I need to avoid so they don't stumble. But sometimes we're looking for this like massive, just God, just show me everything, and we kind of wonder, am I doing God's will at this time? And what I would say, guys, is, you know what, if you feel like that you are honoring the Lord in what you are doing, and you are sitting out there going, you know what, I'm spending time with the Lord every day. So I'm in the Word, I'm reading from the Word, I'm listening to God. I'm really trying to hear from Him. And then you're doing what you are doing, and you're being faithful in that you're working as though you work unto the Lord, that you are serving a purpose. What I would say is this: what's the next step? So in the midst of maybe kind of saying, well, here's where I am from a big purpose perspective, like what can I do from a little perspective? How can I really enhance other people's lives? And what you're going to find, I think, is that most of us really don't spend a lot of time thinking about other people. We do spend a lot of time thinking about ourselves. We spend time thinking about our problems. We spend time thinking about our issues. Now, in and of itself, those are things that we have to do to some extent. Think about how we're going to take care of this, how we're going to pay bills, how we're going to get this kid here and get that kid there and all that stuff. But from a purpose perspective, what are we doing that really is making a difference in other people's lives? And what are we doing that's going to outlive our lives? So like Paul said, this life is temporary. This body is a tent. But wouldn't it be cool if for all of us, we said, you know what, I'm going to do things with my life that truly impact other people in such a way that the things that I have done have lasting impact. And so if you want to say, all right, so what is one thing without a doubt I could do that would have significant purpose? Our church just did a thing where we did Compassion International. And so we talked about like sponsoring kids and writing to them. And we had testimonies of people whose lives have been changed because people said, all right, I'm willing to give. I think it's like $38 a month, something like that. And it made a lasting impression. And there was one family in particular where, because this one person invested in him, he ended up coming to know the Lord. His mom came to know the Lord. His dad, who had nothing to do with him for years of his life, eventually got reconnected, came to know the Lord. His aunt came to know the Lord. And all of a sudden now he's out sharing this ministry. He's working and he's doing all kinds of things. He's got his family here. He's pulled up out of poverty. His family is out of poverty now, and he's able to support them through his job he has over here in America. That's making a huge difference. That is making a difference in multiple people's lives. That's something little that we can do that has a big impression and perhaps a big impact on a number of people around us. And the biggest thing we can do, guys, is share Christ. Share Christ. To just simply say, you know what? Here is someone who loves me more than I'll ever understand. Here is someone who gave his life for me. Here is someone who forgives me when I mess up. Here's someone who loves me deeply, who cares about me, who has a plan and purpose for me, and that guides my life. It determines who I am and what I'm doing, and the things I think about, the things I say, the things that I do, because I serve a risen Lord. And I do know that once I leave this earthly body, that I will have a permanent structure in heaven with the Lord of Lords, King of Kings. And that same creator of the universe desires to have fellowship with me. And as I seek to become more like him, it naturally impacts people around me. So, hope you're encouraged by this word today. Find purpose in your life. Find purpose in big things. Find purpose in small things. And let's go make a difference, guys. Thanks for being with us today for Word Wednesday. And we'll see you guys next time.